بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight's lesson, we want to go back to something we were doing a while back, which is the chapter of marriage from Bulugh Al-Maram. Kitab Al-Nikah from Bulugh Al-Maram. You can find it on the playlist, the parts, in the last class, a lesson that we did from this blessed book. In Kitab Al-Nikah, the first subchapter is Babu Ahkam Al-Nikah, various rulings that pertain to marriage. And then the next chapter, where we stopped and left off, was Al-Bab Al-Thani, Babu Al-Kafa'ati Wal-Khiyar. Babu Al-Kafa'a Wal-Khiyar. It says in English, equality in marriage and right of choice. And equality in marriage and right of choice. It says in the footnotes, in Arabic, kufu means to be similar or resembling or peer. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Similarity or equality in four things, says here. Religion, lineage, profession, and freedom is regarded reliable. Among these four, religion is agreed upon. Lineage is not proved by any true and authentic hadith. Rest of the two, profession and freedom, are admitted by all. To marry other than kufu is not prohibited, but it's better to marry in kufu for many reasons. That's an interesting quote right there. We explained this in the previous classes, in the previous lessons, with regards to al-kafa'a. And al-kafa'a can be translated as equality, or it can be translated as compatibility. And here, in this place, and in this sense, perhaps that's a more valid translation. Like kufu is someone who is compatible spouse, a compatible suitor, someone who seems compatible for your daughter or for your son, etc., and not necessarily equal. Not necessarily equal. So, said in the footnotes that there are four things. This footnoter mentioned four things. Mentioned religion, lineage, profession, and freedom. And he mentioned some things that are agreed upon, some things which are not agreed upon, and certain things which are, he says, valid and acceptable, but they're not proven by any authentic hadith. And it's best to stay in the boundaries of kafa'a, of equality and or compatibility, than going outside of that realm or that circle. That's what the footnoter says here. Tayyib? We read the first hadith, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, that states, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم العرب بعضهم أكفاء بعض والموالي بعضهم أكفاء بعض إلا حائكا أو حجاما رواه الحاكم وفي إسناده راو لم يسم واستنكره أبو حاتم وله شاهد عند البزاري عن معاذ بن جبل بسند منقطع. Says here that Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrated, the Arabs are equal to one another and the Mawali are equal to one another, except a weaver or a cupper. It's reported by Al-Hakim, but there is a nameless narrator in his chain of narrators. Abu Hatim graded it Munkar, and has another version reported by Al-Bazzar from Mu'adh bin Jabal with a Munqati' chain. So what do these terms and what do these words mean? Bulugh Al-Maram is an extremely important book for a student of knowledge, for an imam of a masjid, and it's a very interesting book and helpful book for someone who doesn't fully speak Arabic 100%. They haven't been trained 100%, but they're aspiring to do so. They're trying to push up or level up. They're trying to raise the bar of their studiousness, of their understanding of Islam. And there lies no doubt is that the more that you read and the more difficult things are, and the more you push yourself, it allows you to understand the speech of the ulama better. It allows you to follow better. It allows you to listen to those who are formally trained better. So knowledge only brings good. And this is what we believe here at HadithDisciple, and not the opposite, in which we try to dumb the people down and say, oh, no, that shouldn't be said. Oh, no, you shouldn't read this book. Oh, no, you should have stayed away from this. Oh, no, just leave it. Ask the scholar of the masjid. Oh, no, just let the scholars deal with that. We don't believe that. We don't believe that. We do believe that there are certain things for certain people, for sure. And we do believe that certain things in the hands of certain people are dangerous. And for you to make ijtihad without the proper tools and to just pick and choose based off of your desires. It's not an argument of discussion here. But we do not believe in pushing the people backwards and dumbing them down as many people do. Whether they're learned people or layman people. Oh, just don't even think about that. Just leave that alone. Don't pick up that book. Don't even read that issue. Oh, no, you shouldn't even try. Just stick to this and just ask this. We don't believe in that. And we believe that the more that the person reads individually and asks and listens and focuses and concentrates, he'll grow. Inshallah ta'ala. Everyone is not going to be a mujtahid. There's no doubt about that. Everyone's not going to be a mufti or a faqih or a qadi. That's not what we're pushing for. But we're pushing for people to have a better fundamental level, better understanding, to go beyond the fundamentals. And going beyond the fundamentals allows you to understand better yourself and allows you to decipher better for yourself. Even if you're not mujtahid, I'm not an independent person, but it allows me to hear the fatwa and what? Understand it better and implement it better. It allows me to have more rest in my heart when I read the fatwa bin Baz and he says this is impermissible, such and such. Oh yeah, that's the hadith I read what? In Bulugh Al-Maram. And you have more trust and respect for the scholars and people of knowledge. Everyone understand this? So it's only good. Let alone the fact if it allows you to understand things by yourself in the proper way and in the proper time. Everybody clear on this? So Bulugh Al-Maram is one of those books that is a must read. It should be a book on the shelf of every student of knowledge. It should be read. It should be memorized. If you can't memorize the whole thing, then memorize some of the hadiths, or at least familiarize yourself with those what? Hadiths from Bulugh Al-Maram. Everyone understand this? However, it needs certain explanation. Certain things have to be explained to you. So it says here, Rawahu al-Hakim, that this hadith has been collected by Al-Hakim. Al-Hakim, rahimahullah, is a hadith compiler, just like Bukhari was, and just like Muslim was. His name, or his nickname, was Al-Hakim. Al-Hakim. Of course, that wasn't his first name, or his last name, even though the people of the past and the scholars of the past didn't necessarily have last names. That's Allah knows best. That's relatively a new thing, especially among the Muslims and the Arabs. They didn't have last names back then. It's Ibn. And they say what? You just call him what? Ibn. Everyone understand this? So they didn't necessarily have last names, but that wasn't his first name. But that was the name that he was known by. Just like Bukhari wasn't his first name. Everyone understand this? But when Muslim what? Was his first name. Tirmidhi wasn't his first name. Abu Dawud wasn't his first name. Nasai wasn't his first name. Ibn Majah wasn't his what? First name. Musnad Ahmed. Ahmed was his first name. Malik was his first name. Al-Hakim wasn't his first name. So Al-Hakim, may Allah's mercy be upon him, was a hadith compiler. Like Bukhari was a hadith compiler. He didn't live in the same time, nor was he from the same country. Hakim was from the country of Muslim. He was from Nishapur. And he died in the beginning of the 5th century. The beginning, tail end of the 3rd century, 405. Everyone understand this? 405, 4th century, going in towards the 5th. So Al-Hakim, Abu Abdullah Naysaburi rahimahullah, was a great hadith scholar. And he had a book in which he compiled hadiths. And we've explained Hakim's book in other classes and lessons on what's meant by Al-Mustadrak. Al-Mustadrak is a genre of hadith books, just like there is a Sahih genre. Right, moving forward. Ibn Hajar, the author of Bulugh Al-Maram, he says, وَفِي إِسْنَادِهِ رَاوٍ لَمْ يُسَمْ. And in its isnad, in its chain of narration, is a narrator who has not been mentioned. If you've studied Bayquniyya with us, or Tadhkira with us, you understand that this is called Al-Mubham. Al-Mubham. And from one thing, you learn 10,000 things. Bulugh Al-Maram helps Bayquniyya, Bayquniyya helps Bulugh Al-Maram. So we have that which is called Al-Mubham. It's a narrator in the chain of narration whose name hasn't been mentioned. We don't know who he is and what's his grade. And we've been taught and we've studied, we've learned that that narrator would be by default, or that chain would be what? Weak. Daif. Daif. Moving forward. It then says, وَاسْتَنْكَرَهُ Abu Hatim. And Imam Abu Hatim, he called it munkar, another great hadith scholar. Everyone understand this? One of the greatest scholars of hadith of his time and of ever. Abu Hatim al-Razi, rahimahullah, he said that this narration was munkar. And if you study Bayquniya or Nukhbat al-Fikr, we know what the word munkar means and how it has several usages. None of those usages are positive. None of the meanings of the word munkar in the science of hadith is what? Positive. They're all bad. Whether munkar means la asla lahu, is baseless. Whether munkar means ma rawahu al-majhul, an unknown narrator reported it. Whether munkar means ma rawahu da'if mukhalifan li-thiqa, etc. Whether it means munkar is the sanad or the matan, al-muhim, munkar. Imam Abu Hatim, he called this narration munkar. It's definitely not a good narration to start off with. Tayyib? So those are some of the basic terms, what's meant by that. The hadith, by default, is weak. And not weak, but it'll be very weak. Tayyib. Moving forward. It then says, وَلَهُ شَاهِدٌ عِنْدَ الْبَزَّارِ عَنْ مُعَاذِ بِنِ جَبَلٍ بِسَنَدٍ مُنْقَطِعٍ. And there is a supporting narration, a hadith similar to this, collected in another hadith book, which is Musnad al-Bazzar. Just like there's Musnad Ahmad, there's a great scholar of hadith named al-Bazzar. He has collected another version, but this chain is also weak. It's munqati', as we've explained in Bayquniya and Nukhbat al-Fikr as well. What's meant by munqati', it's broken. So therefore, the reason why he's mentioning these things is that, do these narrations support each other? Do we say now the hadith is hasan, it's okay, it's fair? Or we say both of them are weak and they don't increase each other except in weakness? Everyone understands that's the correct view. And that's a very, very important issue for students of knowledge. I don't know, Allah Alam, students of knowledge who may be watching this channel, laymen's, whoever's watching this channel, many different viewers and watchers, to understand that in hadith science, it's not just one hadith and another hadith and it's just hasan. It doesn't work like that. Just because it has a shahid does not mean that the hadith becomes hasan immediately. Doesn't mean that, especially if something is very weak and if something is plainly proven to be a mistake. A mistake does not fix another mistake. A mistake does not prove that a weak narration, it has a foundation. Rather, you have a weak narration, according to some of the scholars of hadith and ulama of hadith, it's just weak. And there's no proof that the narrator actually made a mistake and made an error. But his grade just isn't that strong. And then he has another narrator, another report, another shahid, similar, it's not that strong, a third, and they're put together and it could be made hasan li ghayrihi, according to those scholars who hold that view, that there's a such thing as hasan li ghayrihi. But under any circumstance, is it something which is extremely weak, munkar, shadh, mawdu', la asla lahu, 3-4 different mistakes and problems in his sanad, and then you put it together and say, yadullu ala anna lahu aslan, and then it's hasan. It's very important for Tulab and them to understand this. And the authentic orthodox culture of ilm al-hadith, according to the earlier scholars of Islam, and those scholars who came later on who followed their way, and were not influenced by the other genres and the other fields of discipline as fiqh and usul and kalam, etc. Everyone understand? So in brief, this hadith is weak. It's from the technical aspect. As far as its meaning, do we have texts in the Quran and the Sunnah to support the meaning of this hadith? That Arabs are equal to each other, in other words, for marriage. And mawali, freed slaves, are equal to each other with regards to marriage. What happens if there's an Arab person who is a slave? Then what? So the whole concept and terminology of a mawla, someone who used to be a slave. What if there's a pure red-blooded Arab that's caught and made a prisoner and turned into a slave? Does he now become a mawla? So that's a discussion in itself. Who is an Arab? Who are the true descendants of those tribes? Everyone understand this? And what makes a person a mawla? And obviously, there's a huge problem here in the United States. Someone who comes from the Middle East, he says, I'm Arab. You cannot marry my daughter because you're not an Arab. Inshallah, hopefully he won't say you're a mawla, a freed slave, even though you may be. And there's no shame in that. That's not your fault. If you used to be a slave, or your father was a slave, or indentured servant, or worker, or whatever the case may be, that's has nothing to do with you. There's no shame in that. Everyone understand this? But we're trying to make a point. And if the person who says he's Arab, in actuality, he may not even be what? Everyone understand this? In actuality, he himself may be a descendant of a freed slave. So that's a huge problem. And that's going to come in a discussion of this hadith. Is this hadith correct or not? As-Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, with regards to this hadith, and of course these fawaid are for special people that we're speaking to, not for every single layman person. We cannot neglect them as well. There are watchers who want a bit more beef from time to time. They want more laham, not just all veggies. He says here, وَسَأَلَ ابْنُ أَبِي حَاتِمٍ عَنْ هَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أباه فقال هذا كذب لا أصل له وقال في موضع آخر باطل. وروى ابن عبد البر في التمهيد قال دارقطني في العلل لا يصح وحدث به هشام بن عبيد الله الرازي فزاد فيه بعد أو حجاما أو دباغا فاجتمع عليه الدباغون وهموا به. وقال ابن عبد البر هذا منكر موضوع وله طرق كلها واهية. He says that Ibn Abi Hatim, the author of Jarh wa Ta'dil that we showed you, he asked his father Abu Hatim. Jarh wa Ta'dil and these books like this, they're like fatwas. Al-Amin Ibrahim قال كذا فلان Mukhtar Ali قال كذا Abdullah قال كذا. They ask him about a narrator, and the father, the Imam, says what he knows and thinks and believes about the narrator. And the son tells his students, and they compile it into a book. Fatwas about narrators. I asked my father about this hadith, he said blah 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 blah. I asked my father about this narrator, he said what? Kada kada kada. Everyone understand this? So he asked his father about this hadith, and he said this hadith is a lie. Kadhib. La aslala is baseless. There's no authentic report that can be traced back to the Prophet ﷺ that he said these words. And he said in another place that is batil. This hadith is totally false. Is of no use and of no value. So automatically we see here, if that this is the strong words of this great erudite Imam is not going to be able to support another hadith is not going to be able to what? Support it. Everyone understand this? He says here, Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah collected this hadith in the Sharh of Al-Muwatta Tamid, and he quotes Daraqutni for saying La yasih, inauthentic. And then he says there's another version of this hadith that says, he says here, Hajjaman, a cupper, or Dabaghan, a tanner, someone who tans skins. He says, so when he reported this hadith, he says, فَاجْتَمَعَ عَلَيْهِ الدَّبَّاغُونَ وَهَمُّوا بِهِ, that all of the tanners in the village of the town, they came together and they threatened him. Like, what is this that you're reporting that we can't get married to this woman, and so on and so on and so forth. Everyone understand this? They had a big problem with this what? This report. They had a problem with this. Moving forward, Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah, the great alim, he said here that this hadith is munkar, mawdu'. It's of what? No value whatsoever. وَلَهُ طُرُقٌ كُلُّهَا وَاهِيَةٌ. And has several different versions, and they're all very weak. So this hadith is of no what? Use. No one can come along and say it's Hasan li ghayrihi. Fulan in this book, Sheikh Fulan in that book. It's of no use. And that's because all of his chains are extremely weak, and it's proven that those narrators, akhta'u, they made an error and a mistake in attributing this to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Now that is the technicality of the hadith, the ilm al-hadith. Now we move on to the second part, which is the diraya. Okay? The fiqh of the hadith. What does it prove? What is halal, what's haram based off of this hadith? What's recommended? What is disliked? And this is the madhab of fiqh sunnah. Is that you thabbit arshak, you solidify the chair first, then you decorate it. And the fiqh way, unfortunately, not all, but many fiqh views and schools and madhabs, they'll do the opposite. This is impermissible to marry this, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And then they'll say, as it's mentioned in a hadith, because of a hadith, instead of making the foundation what? Concrete, first and foremost, then looking to see if there's anything taken therefrom. Everyone understand this? And you'll find many fiqh madhabs, they'll say that lineage and race and ethnicity is a condition or something which is obligatory for marriage. And oftentimes they'll base it off of this hadith, which the ulama of hadith have called kadhib, batil, and mawdu'. Moving forward, Sanani rahimahullah in Subul al-Salam, he says, وَالْحَدِيثُ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى أَنَّ الْعَرَبَ كُلَّهُمْ سَوَاءٌ فِي الْكَفَاءَةِ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ وأن الموالي ليسوا أكفاء لهم. He says this hadith proves that all of the Arabs are compatible and suitable for each other in marriage, and that none of the mawlas are suitable for them in marriage. As we said before, it's a huge historical problem. Who is or who isn't an Arab? If you speak Arabic language does not mean that you're technically a what? An Arab. And there are the three main classes of the Arabs and their tribes and their clans. Everyone understand this? And every Arab is not from Quraysh or Banu Hashim. So we have someone who's an Arab and he tries to marry a Qurayshi woman and they'll tell him what? You're not suitable. So there's still is this proof that this hadith is what? Problematic atop of what? Problematic. Moving forward, he says here, وقد اختلف العلماء في المعتبر من الكفاءة خلافا كثيرا والذي يقوى هو ما ذهب إليه زيد بن علي ومالك ويروى عن عمر وابن مسعود وابن سينين وعمر بن عبد العزيز وأحد قول الناصري أن المعتبر الدين لقوله تعالى إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم ولحديث الناس كلهم ولد آدم تمامه وآدم من تراب أخرج ابن سعد من حديث أبي هريرة وليس فيه لفظ كلهم والناس كأسنان المشط لا فضل لأحد على أحد إلا بالتقوى أخرج ابن لال بلفظ قريب من لفظه من حديث سهل بن سعد وأشار البخاري إلى نصرة هذا القول حيث قال باب الإكفاء في الدين وقوله تعالى وهو الذي خلق من الماء بشرا الآية فاستنبط من آية كريمة المساواة بين بني آدم ثم أردفوا بإنكاح أبي حذيفة من سالم بابنة أخيه هندي بنت الوليد بن عتبة بن ربيعة والسالم مولى لامرأة من الأنصار وقد تقدم حديثه فعليك بذات الدين وقد خطب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم فتح مكة فقال الحمد لله الذي أذهب عنكم عبية بضم المهملة بكسرها الجاهلية وتكبرها يا أيها الناس إنما الناس رجلان مؤمن تقي كريم على الله وفاجر شقي هين على الله ثم قرأ الآية وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم من سره أن يكون أكرم الناس فليتق الله فجعل صلى الله عليه وسلم الالتفات إلى الأنساب من عبية الجاهلية وتكبرها فكيف يعتبرها المؤمن ويبني عليها حكما شرعيا وفي الحديث 4 من أمور الجاهلية لا يتركها الناس ثم ذكر منها الفخر بالأنساب أخرجه ابن جرير من حديث ابن عباس وفي الأحاديث شيء كثير في ذم الالتفات إلى الترفع بها وقد أمر صلى الله عليه وسلم بني بياضة بإنكاح أبي هند الحجام وقال إنما هم امرؤ من المسلمين فنبه على الوجه المقتضي لمساواتهم والاتفاق في وصف الإسلام. As-Sanani, he discusses this in detail and he says that the scholars of Islam they have differed on what's meant by compatibility or equality after they've agreed that there has to be some type of compatibility and equality. A man and a woman getting married in Islam, they must share some type of equality / compatibility. But what's meant by that? Is it just deen, just character? Is it profession, income, race, lineage, age, etc.? Everyone understand this? They agree on a thing and then they what? Differ on certain details of that thing. Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, وَالَّذِي يَقْوَى. He says in the strongest view, the view that is qawi. وَالَّذِي يَقْوَى. The verb qawiya, yaqwa, the verb that becomes qawi, or the opinion that becomes qawi, is the view that was held by many of the salaf, as they say, the first community, the pious predecessors. From them is Zayd ibn Ali and Imam Malik, and it's mentioned from Umar ibn Mas'ud, Muhammad ibn Sirin, Umar ibn al-Aziz, and others, is that is the deen. And that's based off Allah's statement, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most honorable view to Allah are those who are most pious. And also the hadith that states that all of people are children of Adam. Kulluhum waladu Adam. They're all sons of Adam. Right, moving forward. He mentions a few other hadith, and he says in this opinion here is the madhab of Imam al-Bukhari, subtly. Ashara ilayhi al-Bukhari. It's something that Bukhari mentioned in his book as if it's his madhab and he was pointing towards it. Subtly pointing towards it. And that was Imam al-Bukhari's chapter that says, Babul Ikfa'i fi din. Compatibility in religion. And then he mentioned after that, before he got into any hadiths, Allah Azza wa Jalla statement, and Allah is the one who created men from water. Humans from water. He's made bashar from water. Everyone understand this? He says Imam al-Bukhari is extracting from this verse is that all humans are to be equal because they come from one matter. Or one, they all come from one thing. We're all made from what? From water. We're all made from dirt. We're all made from Adam. We're all made from so on and so forth. Moving forward. And then he mentions the narration of how Abu Hudhayfa, the hadith that was previously mentioned, the hadith of Abu Hudhayfa here, he says, بِإِنْكَاحِ أَبِي هُذَيْفَةَ مِنْ سَالِمْ إِبْنَةِ أَخِيهِ Hindi. He mentions other narrations as well with regards to the dispraise of Jahiliyyah and with regards to the Prophet ﷺ allowing certain people to be married during his time that weren't necessarily equal or compatible in lineage because the person used to be a slave or person was from a different tribe, etc. Moving forward. طيب. He says here, and there are many hadiths that prove this. The Prophet ﷺ speaking on the day of the conquest of Mecca, that Allah has taken away from you the filth of Jahiliyyah, and holding pride and honor and one's background and things like this. Now, طيب. He says here, listen carefully to these words. He says, وَلِلنَّاسِ فِي هَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ عَجَائِبٌ لَا تَدُورُ عَلَى دَلِيلٍ غَيْرَ الْكِبْرِيَاءِ وَالتَّرَفُّعِ. He says in this issue here about men and women being compatible and equal in their race and their ethnicity, they have all types of ajaib, crazy statements. Statements that have no basis, no foundation in the deen, except for the pride, the pomp, the honor, the taking a sense of value in one's lineage. That's it. That's all they have to base it off of in this issue. This is what he says. وَلَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ كَمْ حُرِمَتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتُ النِّكَاحَ لِكِبْرِيَاءِ الْأَوْلِيَاءِ وَاسْتِعْظَامِهِمْ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Listen to these words and how many hundreds of years ago Sanani died. Listen to this. He says, La ilaha illallah. None has the right to be worshipped but Allah. He says, how many believing women have been prevented from marriage because of the pride of their walis, because of the pride of their guardians. وَاسْتِعْظَامِهِمْ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ. And how much they puff their own selves up. I am son of such and such. Fulan, the son of Fulan. Therefore, you cannot marry my daughter. I am from this tribe. I am from this race. I am from this continent. I am from this country. I am from this part. I am from this project, from this block. I am, whatever the case may be. It's the avam. A person sticking his chest out and making himself alim. And then his daughter is the one who what? Suffers. The daughter says, okay, Abby, I want to marry this slave or this ex-slave. I want to marry him. I'm happy with whatever he has to give me. I'm happy with how he looks. His lineage doesn't bother me. He's Mawla ana Arabiya. But the father says what? No. And that's because I have to remain or I have to look azim. And if I marry you off to some low scum lineage, that's going to be a humiliation for me. The people are going to laugh about me. They're going to talk about me. They're going to make fun of me. They're going to look down upon me. Everyone understand this? This is hundreds of years ago he lived and died. Sanani. Imagine if he what? Lived here in New York City in the MSAs. Huh? In the Muslim colleges, in the masjids, where the walis give themselves so much weight and value and they forget that they're supposed to be looking out for the girl. This is advice for whoever's watching this. Your job is not to give yourself a pat on the back. Or it should be like this and come to me and say this. And is this person suitable for the girl that I'm in charge of? Period. Daughter, mother, sister, aunt, or a sister that comes to the masjid. That is your job as a wali. You understand this? That's your job. It's to find her or to make it happen for someone that's suitable for her. Not how you think and how you feel. Everyone understand this? Another piece of advice for young girls and young sisters or older girls and older sisters is that you trust your wali, inshallah, if he's a trustworthy person, but you can never, ever, ever turn off your brain and you don't think for yourself. Adinu nasiha, advice. But the final thing has to be decided by you. What do you think I should do, Abdul Qawi? You said, I don't think you should do it. Jazakallah khair. I appreciate that. Let me sit down and think. You know what? No disrespect to you, but I want to go to this place. I'm going to do this. I want to buy this. And there's no disrespect to you. But I'm seeking your counsel. I seek shura. But the final decision has to be what? Mine's. And the moment you turn off your brain and you don't think, you just totally blindly follow someone, it doesn't strengthen you. But it's only making your brain weaker. And it makes your ability to critically think and to solve problems and make important decisions weaker and weaker. And every time you do it, you become more reliant on the people. Now I can't even buy nothing unless I call you. I mean, what do you think? You think it's good? You think it's bad? Not as advice, but I can't even do it myself. Everyone understand this? And that's a problem. So this is a major epidemic here in the United States with regards to walis, fathers, uncles, and how they feel that they have the absolute control and domination over their women, and they can do whatever they want. However, women are responsible as well. All right? You bear a big part of the blame as well by allowing the practice of jahiliyyah to continue. And by allowing your father or your uncle or the brother from the masjid to think that he owns your life because he's your wali. And that is a part of him making himself azim, isti'azamihim. Everyone understand this? So you play a role in it as well. And maybe you need to give advice to your father with all respect. No disrespect. Abi, jazakallahu khairan, ittaqillah. Fear Allah, father. You can't say that about him. You can't talk about this person. But what good is this advice if we have learned people who talk like this and think like this? If one person says only Allah knows how many other people feel and believe the same thing, what? In their hearts. At least he had the courage to say it. You have to give credit. You have to give credit. At least he had the courage to say what he believed in his heart about this race of people. And I'm sure, and Allah knows best, there are many other people who feel what? The exact same thing, if not worse. God said, Kullukum sudun munafiqun. All of you guys are black hypocrites. That's what he said after they got into a fight. How about the Arab guys that were fighting them? They're not munafiqs, just the what? Hada huwa. So at least he had the ability to what? To verbalize it. So you have to give someone credit, even if it's khabith, if it's filthy and foul, and it's inaccurate, it's not true what you said, but at least he had the guts to say it. Okay? The jahiliyyah isn't in many people. So if the leaders of the communities and the knowledgeable people, the people in charge, if they believe this and feel this, that my daughter can't get married to someone suitable for her just because of lineage and blood, what do you expect the normal average day-to-day father to do? You can't get mad of this guy who is a normal person for rejecting you for no other reason. You have bad deen, bad khuluq. No. You don't have no money. You come from a bad family just because you're not what? From my country. And my daughter wants to marry you. But so what? It's not about what she wants. And it's not about what makes her happy. But if the knowledgeable people and the learning people, if they're behaving like in this jahili mentality, what can you expect the normal people to do? Whether, like I said, it could be an issue of daughter, or it can be an issue of sister, new shahada, revert to Islam, who is under your waliship. And you make a bad decision based off of yourself and what you think and feel, and you don't look at what's best for the girl. Everyone understand this? So that's very important advice, and Allah surely knows best. Would you like your daughter to marry someone that's from your family or your lineage that's going to mistreat her? We all know he isn't pious, he isn't righteous. Is that what you want for your daughter? To have a black eye, to be divorced, to be mistreated, to be disregarded? Would that make you happy? Would that please the people who sitting down, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes with you? Maybe it does, but that's a great reflection of you as a father, in which you don't consider your daughter's happiness and your grandchildren's happiness, because it's going to be headache after headache if you marry someone that isn't religious. She's religious, she wants to cover, she wants to practice, she wants to read, and you marry someone that isn't religious, it's going to be major headaches. All right? So the father has to be mindful of what's important and who are you trying to serve. You serve your own ego and pride, or serve your daughter or any other woman that's under your guardianship. As-Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, Allahumma nabra'u ilayka min shartin walladahu al-hawa wa rabbahu al-kibriya'u. He says, oh Allah, we are ashamed. We free ourselves. We return back to you. Nabra'u ilayka. We return back to you from a condition and a prerequisite that was born from lust and raised by pride. And that is saying that there's a condition for the people to be what? Equal in lineage to get married. He says we're shamed in front of Allah that we've upheld this condition and this prerequisite. Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala then says, وَقَدْ مُنِعَتِ الْفَاطِمِيَّاتُ مِنْ جِهَةِ الْيَمِنِ مَا أَحَلَّ اللَّهُ لَهُنَّ مِنَ النِّكَاحِ لِقَوْلِ بَعْضِ أَهْلِ مَذْهَبِ الْهَدَوِيَّةِ إِنَّهُ يَحْرُمُ نِكَاحُ الْفَاطِمِيَّةِ إِلَى مِنْ فَاطِمِيٍّ مِنْ غَيْرِ دَلِيلٍ ذَكَرُوهُ وَلَيْسَ مَذْهَبًا لِإِمَامِ الْمَذْهَبِ الْهَادِي عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامِ بَلْ زَوَّجَ بَنَاتِهِ مِنَ الطَّبْرِيِّينَ. He says, and there were many women who are Fatimiyat, women of this lineage that is said and claimed to go back to Fatima radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Fatimiyat in Yemen, these women in Yemen, they were prevented from getting married And they were stopped from the lawful things Allah had made for them because of what some scholars were saying there. That only a Fatimi woman can only marry a what? A Fatimi man. He says, and that's not, and he's not even argues that right or wrong. He says that's not even the madhab of the Imam of the Hadithiyah, that school of thought. There are other than 4 schools of thought, as we've explained. He says rather he himself married his daughters off to people that were Tabariyin. He married his daughters off to what? People that weren't Fatimis. He says, وإنما نشأ هذا القول من بعده في أيام الإمام أحمد بن سليمان وتبعه بيت رئاستها فقالوا بلسان الحال بتحريم شرائفهم على الفاطميين إلا من مثلهم وكل ذلك من غير علم ولا هدى ولا كتاب منير بل ثبت خلاف من قالوه عن سيد البشر كما دل له إلى أن قال. He says, and he talks about how this happened, what's the foundation of this practice and this opinion, and how the people, they didn't say it with their tongues, but their actions proved so. Listen to these words. The father, he says, what Abdul Raqib? He says, I'm not what? I'm not prejudiced, nor am I racist. We're all children of Adam. We're all Muslims. Bilal was Abyssinian. Salman was Persian. That is the lisanul maqal. That's the verbal tongue. But the physical action does what? Proves the exact opposite. Not only is it a good opportunity or someone asks, because the father doesn't have to marry his daughter to just any person, but the daughter herself wants to marry the brother. Everyone understand this now? She goes to the father and says, I would like to marry brother Mukhtar. He's this, he studies the Quran, he recites the Quran, mashallah, kada, the brothers know him, blah, 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 etc. Everyone understand this? And the only reason why he rejects Mukhtar is because Mukhtar's family comes from a specific country. So he didn't say it, but his actions what? How could that? Then the next, brother Hamza asks for the brother's daughter hand in marriage. He gets the same what? Same response. Then it's Khalid, and he gets what? The same response. We have 3 brothers, all from the same lineage, hypothetically speaking, give or take a little bit, right? No, correct. Suriname, Dutch, Guyana, give or take, right? All 3, right? And all 3 of them have the good basic qualifications, and the father said what? No. But then brother Abdul Qawi comes, and the brother says, Tafaddal, take my daughter. Everyone understand this? That's the problem. Now, Abdul Qawi studies with Khalid. So the good character, oh, mashallah, he recites the Quran, he knows tajweed. It will make sense to take it from the tajweed master. Everyone understand this? So not the point I'm trying to get to. So we have lisanul maqal, the verbal tongue, and then we have what? Lisanul hal, the physical tongue, which proves the opposite. Everyone understand this? He says here, and this wasn't based off of any knowledge. It wasn't based off of any guidance. It wasn't based off of any type of, no religious foundation, except for Jahiliyyah. He says, and we have the exact opposite that has been mentioned from Sayyid al-Bashar, the best human being ever. And that's the Prophet ﷺ. And that's the next hadith of the chapter, in which he says, وَعَنْ فَاطِمَةَ بِنْتِ قَيْسٍ رضي الله تعالى عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لها انكحي أسامة رواه Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, the best of humanity, he said to Fatima, the daughter of Qais, marry Usama. He said, marry Usama. When she was asked, who should I marry? This one has asked my hand, and this one has asked for my hand. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to her, marry Usama. And this hadith is in Sahih Muslim. It's in Sahih Muslim. He says here about Fatima bint Qais, قرشية فهرية أخت الضحاك بن قيس وهي من المهاجرات الأول كانت ذات جمال وفضل وكمال جاءت إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد أن طلقها أبو عمرو بن حفص بن المغيرة بعد انقضاء عدتها منه فأخبرته أن معاوية بن أبي سفيان وأبا جهم خطباها فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أما أبو جهم فلا يضع عصاه عن عاتقه وما معاوية فسعلوك لا مال له إنكي أسامة بن زيد الحديث. He says this woman here, her name is Fatima, the daughter of Qais. She was Qurashiyya, Fihriyya, her tribe and her clan. Tribe and clan. We understand the difference between the two? Tribe and clan? What's bigger, tribe or clan? Tribe is bigger or clan? Okay, what is the definition of a tribe? What makes a tribe a tribe? What's a tribe? Huh? Don't say that on the live stream, Mark. What makes a clan a clan, huh? Don't ask Khalid either. What makes a clan a clan? A tribe consists of a bunch of clans. Okay, but that's not the answer. What? Okay, no problem. What makes a tribe then? Or what makes a clan a clan? What makes a tribe a clan? You said that a tribe is bigger, right? So a collection of clans makes a tribe. Perfect. What makes a clan? A family. A large family is a clan. This needs to be يحتاج تحرير. We have to know what words we're using now. All right? What's Quraysh and Bani Fihr? Everyone understand this? Quraysh is the what? The tribe. And Bani Fihr will be the clan, Banu Salim. What did he say? He said, what, you know this? He was shocked. He said, I am what? Badu. Tayyib, everyone understand this? Moving forward, he says this woman, so she was Qurayshi, she was Fihriya, so that means that her lineage was high up there, right? And she was the daughter of the Hakim, the sister of the Hakim and Qais. And she was from the early Muhajirs. She migrated from Mecca to Medina early on. So she has a what? Lineage and an Islamic virtue. She made hijrah early on, in the early days. Listen carefully. He says, that Jamalin. And she was very beautiful. She was spiritually beautiful and also what? Outwardly beautiful as well. Wa Fadlin. And she was a very virtuous woman. She was a thorough woman. Wa Kamalin. And she was a what? A perfect woman. She was perfect. Inside and what? Outside. Tayyib. She went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu after Abu Amr ibn Hafs ibn al-Mughira divorced her. Her iddah period was over and she went directly to the Prophet. Look at that now. She didn't wait 2 years, 5 years. Everyone understand this? As soon as the iddah was up, it was what? Time to get married. Breaking the backs of the people say, oh, you bounced right into a marriage. Oh, why? Oh, this brother, he married this woman. He married this person's ex-wife just like that. If the iddah is done, it's what? Khalas. It's open. Your time is come and gone. I know what. You can't get mad and angry if someone marries your ex-wife the next day of her iddah. It's not your haqq. Allah's haqq is that she's allowed to do what? Get married as soon as it's over. Everyone understand this? So when her iddah was over, she went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she told the Messenger that there were 2 men who wanted her hand in marriage. One of them was Abu Jahm and the second was Muawiyah radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told her not to marry this one or that one. For whatever reason he told her. And he said the hadith. He said what? Inkihi Usama. Marry Usama ibn Zayd. That's a good match for you. Tayyib, moving forward. He says here.
Was he Qurayshi too?
La, we're going to explain. He's far from Qurashi. He says, فَأَمَرَهَا بِنِكَاحِ أُسَامَةَ مَوْلَاهُ إِبْنِ مَوْلَاهُ وَهِيَ قُرَشِيَةٌ. So he told her to marry Usama, who was his Mawla, the son of his Mawla. Usama and his Zayd were both from the Mawali. They were once in captivity and in bondage and made slaves. So he ordered a Qurashi woman to marry a ex-slave. Everyone understand this? Everyone understand this? This hadith here just breaks the backs of that whole entire argument. There's no coming back after a blow like this. Everyone understand this? Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, وقدمه على أكفائها ممن ذكر ولا علم أنه طلب من أحد من أوليائها إسقاط حقه. Listen carefully. He says here, covering all grounds. He says, so he put Usama in front of the people who were her what? Akfa, equals or compatibles. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and Abu Jahm. So he put this one in front of those two. Sanani then says, there's no proof, there's no evidence that the Prophet ﷺ went to her guardians and said, do you allow her to marry this Mawla? Nah, this isn't known, because somebody may say that it's permissible for a high-bred woman to marry a low-bred man if he goes to the father and says, do you relieve the wilaya? Nah, it says that wasn't known, that's unknown. وكأن المصنف رحمه الله أورد هذا الحديث بعد بيان ضعف الحديث الأول للإشارة إلى أنه لا عبرة في الكفاءة بغير الدين كما أورد ذلك قوله. He says here, and the author Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he mentioned this hadith after the previous hadith to prove that the previous hadith is what? Firstly, weak in its chain and its meaning. And that the only thing which is considered in kafa'ah is deen and not actual lineage and background. Then there's the third hadith of the chapter. We explained as well. He says, وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال يا بني بياضة أنكحوا أبا هند وانكحوا إليه وكان حجاما رواه أبو داود والحاكم بسند جيد. The third hadith of the chapter is reported by Abu Hurairah as well, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Bani Bayalda, oh, Bayalda clan, men of this clan, Banu Bayalda, the person's lineage will be Bayaldi. He says, Ya Bani Bayalda, marry off Abu Hind, marry him off. Marry him off to one of your daughters or sisters or mothers or wahakala, nieces. Marry him off to one of your women folk. Wankihu ilayhi, and you should do the opposite. You yourself should marry one of his kin, women folk. Everyone understand this? The narration says, وَكَانَ حَجَّامًا, and he was a cupper. He was a man who did the hijama. He performed the hijab, i.e. his profession wasn't that high. A low, mean-based profession. Poking holes in people, sucking out blood out of people. It wasn't something noble at all. Everyone understand this? How does hadith fit in 2019, right? He works for this. He has this job. He has his own house, his own car. He's sufficient, but he's not, make enough money. Sorry. Anything else? It's not enough. I'm sorry. My daughter deserves more than that. Huh? No, not just a doctor. I need something above a doctor now. Doctor isn't enough. You have to be financially what? Stable, brother. Islam tells us to be what? Stable, brother. He says here, this hadith is collected by Imam Abu Dawood and Imam Al-Hakim bisanadin jayyid, and it has a good chain of narration. A good chain of narration. Sanani says, فهو من أدلة عدم اعتبار كفاءة الأنساب وقد صح أن بلال نكح هالة بنت عوف أخت عبد الرحمن بن عوف وعرض عمر بن الخطاب ابنته حفصة على سلمان الفارسي. He says this hadith proves once again that these things are not conditions of compatibility and equality. And he mentions here that Bilal radiallahu anhu married Hala bint Auf, the daughter of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. And Abdurrahman ibn Auf was what? What was his lineage? It's high powered, without a doubt. Everyone understand this? And also Umar ibn al-Khattab, he offered his daughter Hafsa to Salman al-Farisi. He offered his daughter to what? To Salman al-Farisi. Tayyib. How much time do we have so far? We don't want to cause no problems, start no issues, but it's definitely an arsenal for a daughter that's been held back or oppressed by her father. Everyone understand this? Show him what? HD live stream. Tayyib. We want to stop here tonight. We've taken a lot of information. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one we ask to guide us all, starting with myself. Guide each and every one of us and lead us to the straight path. Wallahu alam.